Louisiana in 2024. Carmen holds a BA in American Studies with a concentration in African American Studies from American University. Carmen Randolph, founding president and CEO of the Women's Foundation of the South, is leading efforts to build a permanent endowment for women and girls of color across 13 southern states. With nearly 30 years in philanthropy, she is guided by the power a sisterhood holds to support, nurture, and amplify one another, and continually works in partnership with other women in philanthropy to mobilize funders and drive systems change. So if you would welcome Ms. Carmen Randolph.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy 10th anniversary to this wonderful nonprofit summit. Thank you, Shanquetta Cunningham, for this wonderful invite and for your visionary leadership. And thank you all for attending today. I thank you for the work that you do, the real work. The problem solving, the real care that you provide to community, the stretching of limited resources, sometimes from your own pocket, the late nights, the ingenuity you bring to create new things, the difficult decisions, the wins you achieve, like policies that improve conditions for all of us, or the small, seemingly, like helping a teenager who was written off. Graduate from high school and find their way, and the constant balancing that you have to do between mission and sustainability. Nonprofit leaders, like many of you in this room across the South, are carrying enormous, enormous responsibility right now. Day to day, your work centers caring for community, and it anchors our democracy. And yet, I believe this moment is bigger than any crisis. I believe this is a defining moment for how nonprofits operate, collaborate, and lead into the future. This year's theme, Now Nonprofits, Operations That Win, reminds us that we are on a divine assignment to hasten our vision for a better tomorrow. The time is now, not just to survive and keep your doors open, but to build organizations that can truly thrive. Thriving organizations do not just happen by accident. They are built intentionally and not overnight. For too long, nonprofit success has been measured by how much nonprofits can endure, how little they can operate with, how much staff can sacrifice, and how quickly leaders can respond to crisis after crisis after crisis, or how fast or large organizations can build. Have you been asked, but what is your plan to scale? Somebody's been asked that question. Burnout is not a strategy. Exhaustion is not infrastructure. Merely survival cannot be the goal. We must challenge traditional nonprofit definitions of success. Winning nonprofit operations are mission-aligned, financially sustainable, people-centered, collaborative, adaptable, and built to last. I would even say winning nonprofits know who their people be. Raising my daughter in New Orleans, I would hear her friends ask when someone was in a tough spot, well, who your people? Where your people be? And that's what I ask you all today. Who are your people? And where do your people be? I'll come back to that. The organizations that will lead the future are not the ones doing the most. They are the ones building the strongest infrastructure. The Women's Foundation of the South works closely with nearly 150 women leaders across the region. And one thing is consistently clear. Communities thrive when organizations have the capacity to lead well, not just under pressure to produce endlessly. Did you all know that only 3% of philanthropy in America comes to the American South? 3% of $66 billion in counting. And in fact, organizations serving women and girls receive less than 1%. So how does your organization divide this reality? How do you build relationships with institutional partners and individuals alike? Thriving organizations understand that sustainability requires more than one revenue stream or an emergency grant cycle. It requires long-term thinking, diversified revenue, and meaningful relationships with people who believe in your mission, your people. Individual donors are not simply transactions. They are partners in impact. And you might be surprised to know this, but individual giving makes up the majority of philanthropy. So I know it is very tempting to chase that grant, right? However, it is important to build the relationships with your people. Organizations that invest in authentic donor relationships, relationships rooted in trust, storytelling, transparency, and shared values, build stronger institutions for the future. I shared this story with a sister in this room, but very early in my career, I had the Girl Scouts in my portfolio. And at the time that I'm looking at their proposal, I'd already met with them, and I'm looking at their proposal, and I'm going through their financials to just see how their financial mix looked like. I was floored when I saw $13 million in revenue came from one source. What do you all think that source was? Cookies. $13 million of a $16 million organization. Think about Everybody in here has bought Girl Scout cookies. And you are looking forward to that woman in your office or in your neighborhood or whoever whose daughter is selling those cookies because you want to get your favorite like me, Thin Mints, and put them in the freezer. But you want those cookies. But you are purchasing to support that little girl. You're purchasing to support that mother. It is an exchange that happens person to person, right? And it's built on trust. And it has a lesson in it for all of us. So I encourage you to think about, what are your cookies? People give to people. And here in the South, we have a rich history of people coming together, of having each other's backs, of resiliency in ways that other regions do not. In the South, we know how to build through challenges. We know how to lead through uncertainty. We know how to create community even when resources are limited. Too often the South is discussed only through what it lacks. But I believe the South, here in Jonesboro, Arkansas, New Orleans, Louisiana, in Texas, in Georgia, in Alabama, Mississippi. I believe the South is one of the greatest sources of innovation, of relationship building, of transformational leadership in this country. And the future of nonprofit leadership in the South can only be defined, will not only be defined by programs. It will be defined by how organizations build sustainable systems, strong partnerships, healthy teams. I'm going to sit with that one for a moment. Healthy teams. Now, at the Women's Foundation of the South, we first reach out to the leader of an organization. And we challenge that leader to consider her own health, well-being, and restoration in how she leads. And we encourage her to support, to create an environment of care, of rest, and respect within the organization. Often we focus on what the work looks like outside of our organization, but not inside the organization. I remember having a woman say to me, my organization cares about children. They just don't care about money. You don't want to lead that kind of organization. So not only do you need to know your people, you need to take care of your people. Because as we look at how we in this moment can model what people-centered, community-rooted operations can actually look like, I can say the Women's Foundation of the South is committed to build this type of future. And our investment starts with people. So in order to build this new way or success, there are a couple things I want to leave you with. The first is build sustainable infrastructures. Thriving organizations invest in operations before crisis forces them to do so. Thriving organizations understand the importance of diversifying revenue. Again, what are your cookies? They don't solely rely on one grant, one funder, or a funding cycle to sustain their mission. Explore opportunities to build diverse revenue streams. Cultivate individual donors and create opportunities for donors to engage with you, get connected to your mission. Get connected to your work. See what you're doing. Invite them in. And give them multiple ways to support you. Whether it's buying cookies or merch or whatever it is. Or making monthly donations. Gifts of $50 a month that you can count on really add up and matter. There are major gifts and also planned gifts. Who in this room has a planned giving strategy? Oh my. Okay. Do you know what I mean by planned gifts? This is something I want you to consider. Most donors make the largest gift at the end of their lifetime. The largest gift at the end of their lifetime. And it is never too early to begin a conversation with a donor who is committed to what you do and want to see your work be sustained. Make a planned gift. And that is a bequest, a gift that they can designate just for your work at the end of their lifetime. And this can be done through insurance. Can you imagine? Many of us might have insurance policies. You have the opportunity to designate who your beneficiaries are. And that is a space where you can say, I would like to designate 10% of my insurance to XYZ nonprofit. Our board considered, we weren't able to pull it off at the time, but we considered having a pajama party where, and this is when my board was all women, we're not all women anymore, but to have a pajama party and just talk about the class, to talk about and just to normalize among the board thinking about those final gifts. And we are not yet 5 years old. We will be 5 years old, knock wood, in August. And we have had a planned giving society for the last 3 years. And board members who have given to us through their insurance. Another way is through their retirement income, can designate that their 403B or 401k, a portion of that comes to the nonprofit. And it's in those moments. We had a woman call us who had designated, she was doing her paperwork with her attorney, and said, you know, I realize I don't have children. I won't have children. And I give to my alma mater, which is Spelman University, and I decided I want to give to WFS. So we worked with her attorney to do the paperwork, and 50% of her resources at the time of her death will come to WFS, and 50% will go to Spelman. Now she's in her 50s, so we don't want that request to mature anytime soon, okay? But my board member, my founding board member, who drove this point home to the board for the importance of establishing a planned giving society, offered herself and offered to make that first planned gift. And we lost her last fall. Never imagined it. So I'm just saying there are many ways that donors can engage with you and think about planned gifts. Because when individual donations come to you, those unrestricted gifts allow you to operate with greater stability and freedom. So 2, we must collaborate instead of competing.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Collaborate
Yes.
instead of competing. So I go back to, who you people be? And when you think about who your people are, who your potential partners are, I have to tell you, those partners might be likely partners, or they might be very unlikely partners. I was so floored when I heard a presentation after the water crisis in Flint. And the community was pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing to get change happen, to have the pipes inspected, all kinds of things. And who came forward in support of the change that the community was seeking was a pediatrician. They had never thought to go to a pediatrician and have a pediatrician speak about what the impact of lead in water was having on her patients. And it was that pediatrician who turned the tide for what they were able to accomplish. She helped get the policies passed because people listened to this doctor. So I just encourage you to think about, who can your partners be? One of the beautiful things that we do at WFS is we not only bring leaders together within their states, but we also bring them together across states. And we do that through a series we call Grapple and Grow. And through that process, they talk about what they're grappling with. And we do, what are your needs and what are your offers? And we've had organizations collaborate across states on solutions. We are several states a part of the 11th Circuit Court, where issues are impacting all of us. We are states all within the 5th Circuit Court, where issues are impacting many of us. Imagine the power, because no one organization can do it all, but the power you can achieve when you lean in to collective strength and you partner with good partners. So collaboration, especially in these times, is no longer optional. It is operational wisdom. So you might find ways to partner. You might have a partner or community organization that has a very strong back office. And maybe that's not what you have, and you're struggling. Maybe 3 or 2 come together and you invest in that organization's back office and have them do yours. So there are ways we can think about creative partnerships that are beyond just, let's all come together and do this project together. Let's say, how can we get together with our boards and see how our boards can work on some shared governance goals? So there's many ways to think about collaboration. Number 3, we must center people. Healthy organizations understand that people are not just a part of the mission, they are essential to sustaining the mission. People, being people-centered, cannot simply live in organizational value statements. It has to be codified in your policies, in your leadership expectations, and in your workplace culture. I don't want to rush too fast on that. They must be codified in your policies. What do your personnel policies say? And how are you embedding values like your staff having breaks for rest, being able to use leave to go to a parent-teacher conference, or to volunteer with another organization? Your family leave policies. This means creating environments where staff can thrive, not just survive. It means normalizing rest, protecting boundaries. I know, I have to resist. Now I'm telling you, you have to resist sending that 2 a.m. email. And with AI tools, you can schedule send everything. Even a Teams message, a Slack message, or it will now pop up. Would you like to send this message when this person's workday begins? And you can say yes. Because it is not urgent at 2 in the morning. Okay? So, that leads me to the next point, number 4. In this time, you must protect your organization and your people. So what does that mean? Are you insured? And do you have enough insurance? So these are the questions. Do you have insurance? Do you have the right types of insurance? And do you have enough? Cybersecurity insurance is something that in these times you cannot afford to be without. D&O insurance to protect your board and your people is something you cannot do without. There are also other platforms that you can explore to protect personal information. So I don't know if you all have heard of Delete Me or even Black Cloak to support executives, but these are ways that, let's just say, the trolls and the bad guys are finding ways to get into organizations and attack and destroy them. You have to fortify your email systems. So talk to your IT people. Talk to them today if you haven't done it already. Is our email safe? I got a whole email. Actually, my accountants received a whole email with a whole thread of conversation between me and this person, agreeing to pay them $50,000 for coaching. I never met this person. I don't know this person. I didn't pay $50,000 for coaching. And they used an email address that appeared like mine and had a whole back and forth that they sent them and said, see, Carmen said she's going to pay this. Please process payment. So there's all kinds of ways that they're getting in. But when we think about protecting the organization, insurance, personal information, and another one that we often don't think about is succession planning. Because what happens if you go away? What happens if your number 2 or your fundraiser, your lead fundraiser goes away? So succession planning is not about signaling, hey y'all, I'm out. It's not that. It's about planning for the future of the organization in a very thoughtful and methodical way when transitions happen, because they will happen. So number 5, we must remain adaptable. Organizations that thrive are willing to evolve. Now is the time to release outdated models that no longer serve our communities or our teams. Shanquetta mentioned embracing technology. I had somebody say to me the other day something that just floored me. She said, "Girl, AI is like the internet was for us in our 30s." I was like, wow. So for those of you who've been around long enough to work when the internet was a new thing, think about how the internet just opened up your whole world. AI has that potential and ability. And when she said AI is like the internet, she meant that if you don't embrace it, just like the internet, you're going to be left behind. And not left behind slowly, but left behind quickly. Because those of you, or those who are around you, who are using AI, will work smarter, will work more efficiently, and be able to do more, have freed up space, because you're engaging AI not as a threat to the organization, but a partner in your organization to help you work more effectively. So there's all kinds of conversations. I encourage you, if you haven't had an AI audit, if you haven't had someone, if you don't have AI policies, these are things you might want to look into and train your staff in AI. I will tell you something that I learned recently. You ever go into a Zoom meeting and all these note takers pop up, right? And then maybe after the meeting, you get an email that says, "Hey, if you want to get a recap of this meeting, click here," and you see all the notes from the meeting. That's excellent, right? Well, I must have been doing that for a while. I had a meeting one day with someone, and it was sensitive. And after that meeting, someone who was copied on the invite for the meeting to let them know that it was happening got the whole transcript of the meeting. I didn't even know that an AI note taker was in the room. So we had to go in and go into the AI note taker and figure out how this happened. And here I had a whole account, y'all, that I never started, with 3 years of documented meetings. So I say that to say that if your staff members are using note takers, and they're all different note takers, this is your organization's data, this is your organization's information that's going out there into the ether. And when that staff person leaves, you don't know what that data or that information was. So I'm going through this right now. This is a hard lesson. And we have to identify one note taker for the organization, and it's a company note taker, and that's all staff can use, so that we are protecting our data. So nonprofit leaders, I implore you to build organizations that can sustain both impact and people. Know your people. Collaborate with your people. Protect your people. Ask your people for what you need. Invest in relationships, diversify your revenue, and create cultures where your teams can thrive long term. And to any other funders in the room, I implore you to fund capacity, operations, and long-term vision not just emergency response. Trust organizations enough to support the infrastructure that makes the impact possible. And to community members and partners, invest your time, your advocacy, your relationships, and your resources. Support organizations for not only for what they produce and what they give and give and give to community, but for what it takes to sustain the work. We cannot continue asking nonprofits to solve generational challenges with temporary solutions and exhausted teams. I believe the next generation of nonprofit leadership in the South can lead our country through lived experiences that can lead to a more just society. Nonprofits in the South can be more sustainable, more collaborative, more innovative, and more courageous. This is a time to be courageous. But it will require us to rethink what winning truly means for our organizations. Winning is not merely staying open. Winning is building organizations strong enough to serve communities well into generations to come. The time is now to build nonprofit operations that do more than survive. The time is now. The time is now to build nonprofit operations that can win for generations to come. Thank you.
Wow, I had my daughter texting me some notes, was doing all the things, and then I was like, who policy do we need to be wrote into? As you all know, so CARES Group Consulting is my day-to-day, but also have over a Cup initiative, which is a nonprofit that supports minority and rural women entrepreneurs here in Northeast Arkansas. But your message was right on time about collaboration, about diversifying funding. You also tapped into some of our presentation Ms. Katina and I are doing with AI and the efficiency. But for those that may be on the fence about change and how we do things, I'm just telling you now, get off the fence. Look to your neighbor, going like we're in church, and say, neighbor, get off the fence. Truly, because the time is now. And so we may grab some time from one of our leaders' roundtable, so permit that grace with that. And so at this time, again, please, one more hand clap for Ms. Carmen. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. And we were also streaming live for her session. So for those, I know I saw a lot of pens writing and all of that information. Some stuff in information content you have to see again, right? Because it's layered. And so just wanted to share that information. We're going to do door prizes. Y'all ready? Yeah. Okay, where's the crew? So I'm so thankful we have an Arkansas State